Hey there, how you going? I just wanted to say something really quickly. I wanted to share something with you because last night I was speaking to a friend of mine and he said to me, I noticed that on your website you've got the Lord Smith Lost Dogs Home. Can you tell me more about that? Like, what's the story? And I told him the story, and then he said, "Oh my gosh, you have to share this on your podcast. Like, you haven't shared this yet." And so I just thought, okay, well, I'm just driving along today, minding my own business, just cruising about the countryside again. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'll just share the story. So I'm just going to pop the phone just there. Okay, so here's the story. Many of you know that I had a Maltese cross. I don't know what he was. I think he was a Lhasa Apso. It's a breed of dog from Tibet that the monks used to have, and they were bred to be very protective of the monks. So they were very quiet all of the time, but as soon as they sensed some danger approaching, they would alert the monks to it, right? I guess kind of like much like any dog would alert its owner to people nearby and stuff like that. But anyway, that was the story of the Lhasa Apso. Now, I got Gabe so his name was Gabe, Gabe, like the Archangel Gabriel. Just think of it that way. So his name was Gabe, and I got him, I had him for 14 years, and I got him from the Lord Smith Lost Dogs Home, like the animal shelter there in Melbourne. And it wasn't the first place I went to look for a dog, actually. I knew that I wanted to get a dog from the pound. I wanted to save a dog. And I had been with my sister to like the Peninsula Animal Aid and, all these different shelters looking for, in air quotes, my dog. And I had just got out of hospital that morning as well. I just got out of hospital that morning. And so my sister's driving me around because I'm determined to come home with a dog. And we went to all these different shelters, as I said. And then we ended up on the other side of the city. Now, I think we were in Fitzroy or Footscray or Brunswick or something like that, wherever the Lord Smith Animal Shelter is. And they were getting ready to close. And they said to us, okay, you can come through, but it's right on 5. We're about to pack up, just please be quick. So we said we would, and I knew that I wanted sort of a smallish dog because I only had a small place in Tyab then. So I lived in Tyab on the Mornington Peninsula. Really, really loved my little place, but I didn't want a massive dog or anything like that, like not a shepherd or a pointer or anything. I knew I wanted something small-ish. And anyway, I was there and I was looking at all of the dogs, and then I came to a dog that was right up the very end. So you know how they've got them all sort of in the corridors behind the, the mesh fence sort of thing. So I saw him, and he was just there, and he was looking stoic. I can still remember he was sitting more towards the back, but he just had this like, don't mess with me look. And all the other dogs, they were like, love me, pat me, I'll be your best friend. But this dog was just like, I don't know, he was just sort of stoic. And anyway, there was a little thing, and I didn't know what the little thing meant. It was like a little sign, a little sort of icon thing. I didn't know what that meant. I asked the girl, and she said, it's PTS, like and I'm like, what's PTS? And she's like, put to sleep, like he's going to go because, he's been here for a while and he's just not connecting with anyone and all this. So of course, straight away, I'm like, well, I want this dog. And she gave me a lead, and she said, okay, well, you can go and take him onto the grassy area and just see, what it's like and if you like him and all this sort of jazz. And I took the dog on the lead, and we went to the grassy area, and I knelt down. I was just kind of sitting on my knees, and I was trying to call him towards me, and he wasn't really interested in me. And I was like really sad about it, and I kept trying to coax him over and everything. And then off in the distance, some gardeners were packing up. and one of them was carrying some tools, and the other one was he had a wheelbarrow or a bin or something. It was making a lot of noise. And anyway, as soon as Gabe saw them, Gabe started barking really loudly, barking, and then he came and he sat in front of me. He sat in front of me and he was pressed up against me, like the back of him was pressed into my knees, and he just kept barking at these men. So he was protecting me straight away. He was protecting me, and I was like, I've got to have this dog. I'm taking him. That's it. And I scooped him up and I said, yep, I want him. And they said, are you sure? And I said, yes. And then I said, what's his little backstory? And I was told that he had been found in the city in Melbourne, I don't know, I think it was Brunswick, and he had been an alley dog, like, you know, he was found in the alleys, and apparently people who were working at the restaurants there were all feeding him, and so he was spending a lot of time in this alley where all these restaurants were. And yeah, just eating scraps. People were taking pity on this little puppy and they were just like feeding him scraps all the time. Apparently, when he was captured by the pound and taken to Lord Smith, he didn't have a microchip or anything like that, so there were no owners. And he was like vicious, like he was baring his teeth, and he was, you know, not a happy chappy. They had to sedate him, and he had really long hair, and all the hair had been really sort of like matted up and everything. And anyway, they sedated him and they cleaned him up, they shaved him, they tended to his little wounds and stuff like that, fixed some broken bones. And then when he came to and he'd healed and all of that, he had to go into behaviour modification program for 10 days. So he did that. And then he was put out on display for adoption. And yeah, it just hadn't been working out. It wasn't that people didn't want him, they wanted him, but there was just no connection, no whatever. And anyway, yeah, he was due to be, as I said, go to the Rainbow Bridge. So anyway, upon hearing the story, of course, I really knew I had to have him. So I was like, yeah, take my money. I want him. And anyway, I got him. And from that day on, we were inseparable. So, you know, partners sort of came and went and everything, but Gabe and I, we were constant, we were consistent. And as I've shared with you in previous episodes, I was late diagnosed with autism, right? Which explained a lot, because I didn't realise at the time. I just thought that I was someone who liked her own space. I just thought that I was somebody who just preferred to be by myself. But really it was that, like looking back, I should have had some kind of social skills training, because I struggled to make friends, I struggled to maintain friendships, you know, all those kinds of things, and also struggled a lot with regulating my own moods. So Gabe was instrumental in terms of me being able to function, and I didn't even realise it. Now, one of the things is I don't actually like to be touched, as you probably know, I don't like to be touched. I don't even let my mother touch me. No, like, it's just not happening. I don't know why. I can't. But Gabe could touch me. And guess what? Gabe didn't like to be touched either. And so we would go for walks together. And Gabe used to have a blue mohawk. He always had a mohawk. And it was either blue or purple, and sometimes green. So he often looked like a little dinosaur, you know, like a little stegosaurus with all his little mohawk up, going from his head all down his back. He was like so cute, and he had a little reputation in Hastings for being like the tough dog, you know, because he had this really hard underbite. And he was just like always curling his top lip, like he was, really annoyed at the world and everything. But he was a softie. And anyway, we'd walk along, and people would often want to stop and take their photo with him or pat him. And Gabe was just like, "No, you're not patting me. Go away. Don't touch me." Or he'd bark at people, and he was so protective of me that if I was just walking down the street and somebody dared to walk, on the same footpath, Gabe was barking and barking and barking. And the closer they would get to us, the louder and the bigger the barking, right? Anyway, so that's what he was like until one day we're walking along and he just goes up to this random guy and he stood side on, which he used to do for me when he wanted me to pat him. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I saw the guy leant down to pat him. And Gabe was just standing there like it was his job to be patted. He was silent. I mean, he wasn't loving it, but he was silent. And he was just letting himself be patted. And I said to the lady that was with the guy, this is really weird. I said, normally he's barking at people. He's gone up to you guys and he's asking for a pat. This is so unlike my dog, And then the guy who was patting him started speaking to me, and I could tell pretty quickly that there was something, that this guy might have been perhaps dealing with. And then the lady said, oh, yes, this is, let's call him John. This is John, and I'm his worker. John actually has level 3 autism. And I was like, that's interesting. And then Gabe turned around, switched sides, and, let John pat him on the other side. So it was all nice. And I thought that was so interesting. And then subsequent to that, we would go out and he would always be barking, but he just had this real knack of sensing people that I guess had their challenges. And he would find them, and or if one crossed our path, he would just go up to them and block their path so they couldn't walk forward, kind of thing. And he'd just be standing side on and just kind of like, okay, you can pat me. And this was the thing. And he did this for his whole life. He was very, very, I don't know whether you would say, like, just tuned in with this, Anyway, toward the end of his little life, it was like the last maybe 6 to 12 months, he developed a cough. He got really sick. He developed a cough as a result of a leaky valve in his little heart. And so if you get too worked up about something, he'd start coughing and spluttering, and then he would, like faint, like just pass out and everything. It was really scary, and, it really made me worry. And so I looked after him a lot, and he had lots of medication, and I gave him so much love, and I tried to make every day as if it was the last day. I wanted to give him the best last day ever. I let him run off the lead in the park when I would normally never do that because I never trusted him to come back. Instead of giving him kibble, I was getting him grilled barramundi from the Chippo. I was doing everything I could to make sure that if this was the last day, it was the best day. And I just loved him so much. Getting all emotional just thinking about it. I loved him so much. And anyway, it came time for him to, and we had a conversation, he and I, in the car. And I said to him, I love you so much, and nobody will ever replace you. You've just been my best friend. You've been my constant companion, and I really hope that I've given you the best life ever. And sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. I'm trying not to. Sorry. And then I said to him, when it's the right time, can you please send me the next dog? When it's the right time, I want you to choose him. I want you to to find the right one for me and send him along. Will you do that? And I just kind of knew that he understood, and I really believed that Gabe and I just knew each other so well. I really believed he understood what I was saying, which obviously I know he doesn't, but I felt like he understood. Anyway, the time came, and it was a really terrible day. It was good for him because I wanted him to be at peace, and it was just sad for me. Like, it was a celebration of his little life, but wow, it was just right up until his last breath. He was barking at the vet who euthanized him because he was trying to protect me from the vet. I mean, he's such a beautiful soul. Anyway, what ended up happening was, after that, my own mental health took a nosedive really, really quickly. And I struggled. I didn't get depressed or anything like that, but I held it together. I was still able to show up for work and do those kinds of things. But around the work, I was just crying all the time. I was in this horrible state of grief. It was this big loss. It's such a big gap, isn't it, when your pet isn't there anymore? And for me, because I don't have children and I no longer have any of my husbands, it felt even bigger. It felt huge. There was definitely this big gap. Anyway, it all happened quite quickly, but I think it must have been about 2 months, 2.5 months. And my mum had noticed that, I wasn't doing well. And my sister had cottoned on to this as well and had figured out we need to get her another dog. So she started sending me pictures of dogs, and as I said, I was still grieving, I was still upset, all of those sorts of things. But anyway, one day I was just sitting there scrolling on my phone while I should have been watching TV with Mum and keeping her company. I was out of it, and I was just mindlessly scrolling, and then I got a notification from Gumtree, which was so weird because I got the Gumtree app, but I hadn't used it for such a long time, and then all of a sudden I'm getting this notification on Gumtree, and I open it up, and it's stuff about dogs, and then I see a picture of Buddy, and he was a little puppy, and he was sort of there, and he had this white chest, and it was all puffed up, and he was just posing, and he was looking off into the distance, and something in me just knew that this was my dog. I can't explain it to you. I just knew, and there was this sense of urgency that came over me. And I turned around and I said to my mum, oh my gosh, I've found my next job. And I passed her the phone so she could see the picture. And she said, oh, he looks nice, is he Cavy? And I said, yeah, he's a Cavalier cross Maltese. So anyway, I said, I'm going to see if he's still available. So I contacted the lady. Long story short, he was available. My mum ended up saying, look, just go tonight, because I was making plans to go down on the weekend and have a look and da-da-da. My mum was like, no, just go down now. You're not doing anything else. You're not doing anything. So just get up, get the keys to the car, off you go. Just go and get him. So then I contacted the lady. I said, can I come and get him now? And she said yes. So I drove down to Narnagoon, and he was on a great big farm. So there are lots of farms down that way, lots of country, lots of open space, all of this. I was met at the car by the mother and the father. Buddy's dad was a Cavalier, and his mum was a white Maltese. Anyway, and then, yeah, I met Buddy, and I was like, yeah, I just know this is my dog, and grabbed him. And I know to this day that Gabe sent Buddy to me because while I was not prepared, I've never had a puppy, right? I've never had a puppy before. While I was unprepared for raising a puppy, which, by the way, if you're thinking of getting a dog, maybe get one from the pound that's like 2 or 3 years old. Puppies are hard work. Like, oh my gosh, my daily amount of steps like increased fourfold. And now having to like toilet train him and deal with the energy, and he was like a high energy dog and everything. But anyway, he's, I think, 16 months now, and he is the best dog in the world. He is so loving, and he wants me in his space the whole time. I work from home, and Buddy is on the daybed now. He can settle himself down on the daybed now, which is great. Last year, he was still learning how to control himself. This year, he's much better with it. He still has his moments, but he's much better with it. And he's in a routine now, and, you know, even after work, you know, we go to settle down of an evening, and Buddy just wants to sit on me. He thinks he's a lap dog, and he just wants to sit on me and just be patted. And if I stop patting him, he sort of looks at me and says, well, keep going. So then I start patting him again, and he's just like my whole world. It's so beautiful. And I know Gabe sent him, and I am so grateful and so thankful, and I often pause and I give gratitude to Gabe, and I say thank you so much. I know Gabe is still here, and Gabe's energy is still around me, and I'm very thankful for that. But I'm also thankful to have little Buddy now, who's just a ball of love, and I love him so much, and he loves me so much. And then I was thinking about how much I love Buddy, and I was thinking how Buddy came to me through Gabe. And then I thought how blessed I was, because I didn't realise for all that time Gabe and I were together, I didn't realise how important, how instrumental Gabe had been in my mental health and in my overall health and well-being. And so I wanted to acknowledge that, and I wanted to show gratitude. And so what I did was just looking at the directions on my GPS. So what I did was I thought I'm going to see if there's a way that I can support the Lost Dogs Home, because although Buddy is not from the Lost Dogs Home, Gabe was, and I'll be forever thankful. This dog changed my life. I don't know how things would have been so different for me had I not had Gabe. And if Gabe helped me so much with my mental health and well-being, then I know the power of a dog. And it doesn't have to be a dog, right? It could be a cat, it could be your budgie, it could be your pet lizard, whatever it is, right? But I know now, and I appreciate now, the power of animals and the power of that animal love, that unconditional love, and the wisdom of an animal. And I really think animals do have their own little souls, and I think they find their people, right? They find their people. And so if there was anything I could do to make it possible for somebody else out in the world to find their person, to find their pet, to find their dog, I wanted to do that. And so I contacted Lord Smith, and I asked them what could I do, and they said to me that they've got a thing where you can pay monthly, like a monthly donation. So that's what I do now, and so every single month a portion of my profit goes to the Lord Smith Lost Dogs Home. And that's it. That's the story of why it says Lord Smith Lost Dogs Home on my website. I just thought that I would share that with you because, the person I was speaking with yesterday said, you need to tell people your story. Like, this is such a really beautiful story. So I wanted to share it with you because you're part of my world too, and I wasn't sure if you would like to hear this, or if you needed to hear this, or anything like that. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to this story. I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for being part of my world. Maybe Gabe sent you too. People appear when you need them the most. Angels appear when you need them the most. And we're just so, so blessed to have animals in our lives, aren't we? So thank you so much for listening to my story there. I hope you have a really, really beautiful day, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.